central North Dakota, an ancient and terrifying creature is said to lurk, known as the Mini Washitu, or the water monster of the Missouri River. This bison-like beast haunts the waters, sending shivers down the spines of those who dare to approach its domain. The Mini Washitu is no ordinary creature. Descriptions of the beast are chilling. Its body resembles that of a bison, but its eyes glow with an eerie red light, and its skin shimmers like wet, glistening stone. Some say its back is covered in jagged spines, and its massive horns curve upward like dark crescent moons. The Mini Washitu is said to be both beautiful and horrifying, an ancient force of nature born from the river's cold, dark currents. The legend warns that encountering the Mini Washitu is a death sentence. It is said that those who see the creature are struck with a terrible madness, their minds unravelling as they are haunted by visions of the beast long after their encounter. Some victims are drawn back to the river, compelled to wade into its icy waters, where the Mini Washitu waits to drag them to a watery grave. The origins of the Mini Washitu are shrouded in mystery. Some believe it is a guardian spirit of the river, punishing those who disrespect its waters. Others whisper that it is an ancient predator, older than the land itself, a creature that has hunted these waters since time immemorial. To this day, the legend of the Mini Washitu persists, a chilling reminder of the unknown lurking beneath the river's surface. Fishermen and boaters are warned to tread carefully, especially on moonlit nights, when the river glows with an unnatural light. For if you see the Mini Washitu, it may already be too late. Its glowing eyes the last thing you'll ever see before the river claims you forever. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Highgate Cemetery in London became the epicenter of a terrifying and unsettling media frenzy, a frenzy that would give birth to one of the most chilling urban legends of the 20th century, the Highgate Vampire. The cemetery, known for its Gothic architecture and crumbling tombstones, had always been a place of mystery, but it was the rumours that swirled around it during this time that would send a chill through the city. It began with strange sightings. People reported seeing a tall, shadowy figure with piercing red eyes lurking among the tombs, moving with unnatural speed and disappearing into the darkness. A local woman claimed to have seen a man with pale, lifeless skin standing by a crypt, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that sent her running in fear. Others spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread that would wash over them whenever they entered the cemetery at night, as if something or someone was watching from the shadows. The stories quickly escalated, and soon rumours spread of a vampire living in the heart of Highgate Cemetery. Witnesses claimed to have seen the vampire rise from its grave, its eyes glowing with hunger, as it stalked the grounds in search of blood. Some even reported hearing strange sounds in the night, howls, whispers, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the graveyard silence. The sensation reached its peak when a group of amateurs amateur vampire hunters, led by David Farron and Sean Manchester, set out to confront the creature. They claimed to have performed rituals to exorcise the vampire, but the truth remained elusive. Many who ventured into the cemetery never returned, and those who did spoke only of an overwhelming darkness that seemed to close in around them. To this day, Highgate Cemetery remains a place of eerie quiet and suspicion. The legend of the Highgate vampire continues to haunt the minds of those who dare to visit, and the truth behind the sightings remains buried in the shadows, where no one dares to look too closely. On the eerie evening of September the 20th, 1965, in the quiet seaside town of Felixstowe, England, a terrifying event unfolded, one that would become known as the legend of the Felixstowe fire demon. Witnesses claimed to have seen something unnatural that night, an encounter so horrifying that it would haunt the town's memory for years to come. It began with strange lights in the sky. Around midnight, residents reported seeing glowing red and orange orbs floating above the coastline, moving with unnatural speed and precision. These lights were unlike any aircraft known at the time, pulsing with a fiery intensity that seemed almost alive. But it wasn't the lights that struck fear into the hearts of Felixstowe's residents. It was what came next. A young couple, drawn by the unusual lights, ventured closer to the shore. As they approached, a figure emerged from the darkness, illuminated by the fiery glow. They described it as a tall, humanoid being, yet something was horribly wrong. The creature's body seemed to shimmer with a heat wave-like distortion, as though it was surrounded by invisible flames. Its eyes were fiery embers, burning with a malevolent red glow that seemed to pierce straight into their souls. The couple stood frozen as the entity approached, its movements slow and deliberate, almost predatory. A faint crackling sound, like the hiss of burning coals, filled the air, and the air around them grew stiflingly hot. The creature stretched out a long, claw-like hand, and in that moment, the couple fled, overwhelmed by an overwhelming sense of dread. They ran through the darkened streets, their minds reeling from what they'd just encountered. Other townspeople reported feeling an inexplicable heat that night, even inside their homes, as if the fire demon had cast a spell of warmth across the entire town. Some claimed that the creature had left scorched footprints along the beach, deep impressions jarred into the sand that no waves could wash away. But by morning, there was no trace of the creature, only the lingering terror of its fiery gaze and the charred marks left in its wake. Local authorities dismissed the event, attributing the lights to atmospheric phenomena and the creature to the overactive imaginations of frightened witnesses. But those who saw the Felixstowe fire demon knew the truth. A being from another world, forged in fire, had stepped into their world, leaving a scar in Felixstowe's memory that would never fade. Today, the legend of the Felixstowe fire demon endures, a chilling reminder that some mysteries defy explanation. On stormy nights, when the sea crashes against the shore, residents sometimes claim to see a fiery glow flickering in the distance, as if the fire demon still haunts the coast, waiting to emerge from the shadows once again. legend of HMS Friday is a chilling tale that has haunted the Royal Navy for centuries, a tragic story of defiance against superstition and the disastrous consequences that followed. It is said to be the ultimate proof that some myths should never be challenged. The story begins in the late 17th century, during a time when superstition and folklore held a powerful grip over sailors. Among the most feared of these superstitions was the belief that it was cursed to set sail on a Friday. Ships that embarked on such a day were believed to face certain disaster. Storms, shipwrecks, and death were said to follow those who defied the omen. The Royal Navy, determined to dispel this superstition once and for all, decided to prove that there was no truth to the ancient belief. They would build a new ship, a magnificent vessel, and set sail on a Friday to show that no ill fate awaited them. This ship was to be called HMS Friday, a bold and defiant name meant to mock the superstition and the sailors who believed in it. The ship was constructed with great care and was a marvel of engineering. Its launch was celebrated, and the officers of the Navy were eager to prove that the old fears had no place in the modern world. But as HMS Friday left port on a fateful Friday morning, a sense of unease settled over the crew. Despite their bravado, there was an underlying feeling that something was terribly wrong. At first the voyage seemed uneventful, but soon strange things began to happen. The weather, typically calm and predictable, turned volatile. Storms began to whip up out of nowhere, battering the ship relentlessly. The crew, though experienced and seasoned, struggled to keep the ship steady against the raging waves. It was as though the very sea itself had turned against them. Then, on the third day of their journey, a catastrophe struck. In the dead of night, with the storm howling like a pack of wolves, HMS Friday was torn apart by a violent crash. Some say the ship collided with a massive, unseen force beneath the water, while others claim it was a huge wave that shattered the hull. The ship sank quickly, dragging most of the crew down with it. Only a handful of men managed to survive, clinging to wreckage in the cold, unforgiving sea. When the survivors were rescued, they could barely speak of what had happened. Their eyes were haunted by a terror that no words could express. What they did say was that there had been something else on board. A presence, a shadow that followed them from the moment they set sail. Some whispered that the spirit of the sea had cursed HMS Friday, and that it would never be forgotten. To this day, the tale of HMS Friday is told in hushed tones among sailors and naval officers. The Royal Navy, after that fateful voyage, reportedly destroyed all records of the ship and the crew, as if trying to erase the curse that had befallen them. But the legend lingers, a grim reminder that some superstitions are not to be trifled with. Those who dare to sail on a Friday may still whisper the name HMS Friday, as a warning to those who think they can challenge fate and live to tell the tale. village of Woolpit, Suffolk, there is a tale so strange, so unsettling, that it has echoed through the centuries, whispered in hushed tones by those who dare remember. The story is that of the Green Children, 2 children with skin the colour of freshly sprouted leaves, who appeared mysteriously in the village during the 12th century, their origins shrouded in darkness. The legend begins one fateful day when the villagers discovered 2 children, brother and sister, standing near one of the village's wolf pits, a deep, dark hole from which the village took its name. The children were unlike any the villagers had seen before. Their skin was a sickly green, their eyes wide with fear, and their clothes were strange, made of a fabric that none could recognise. They spoke in a language no one understood, their words a guttural foreign sound that only deepened the mystery. The villagers, both curious and fearful, took the children in, feeding them the only food they knew, bread and beans, but the children refused, their faces contorting with disgust at the food. It was only when the villagers offered them raw beans that the children ate, their hunger insatiable. Days turned to weeks, and slowly the children's skin began to lose its unnatural hue, fading from green to a more earthly tone. But the strange, eerie aura surrounding them never faded. The boy, frail and weak, soon fell ill and died. But the girl survived and began to speak. Though her words were fractured, her memories fragmented, she revealed a story so unbelievable that it has haunted Woolpit ever since. The children, she said, came from a place called St. Martin's Land, a realm that existed beyond the earthly world, a land where everything was green and the sun never shone. She spoke of strange beings who lived there, beings that looked like people but were not quite human. She told of a world where the sky was always twilight, and where she and her brother had wandered before they mysteriously found themselves in the pit. No one knows for certain what happened to the Green Children. The girl, now assimilated into the village, grew up and eventually married, but the strange origin of the children was never fully explained. Some say they came from a parallel dimension, while others whisper of an underground kingdom, or perhaps they were lost souls, cast adrift from some other, darker world. To this day, the tale of the Green Children of Woolpit lingers like a shadow over the village. The villagers of Woolpit still speak in hushed tones of the strange visitors, of the green-skinned children who arrived one day, never to reveal the truth of where they came from, and perhaps, more chillingly, where they went. In the shadowy annals of New England's history, amidst tales of spectral figures and cursed lands, the story of Eunice Cole, or Goody Cole, stands out with a chilling resonance. In the small town of Brentwood, New Hampshire, her name became synonymous with witchcraft and woe, her life a testament to the dark superstitions that once gripped the heart of the 17th century. Goody Cole was an enigmatic figure, her life shrouded in misfortune and mystery. First accused of witchcraft in 1656, she became the scapegoat for every disaster that befell the town, from unexplained deaths to failing crops and dying livestock. Her neighbours' fear and suspicion branded her an outcast, a woman touched by the devil himself. The townsfolk whispered that she could be seen muttering to herself in the woods, concocting strange brews and communing with unseen forces. Children dared each other to peek through her dimly lit windows, only to flee in terror at the sight of her shadowy form bending over a flickering flame. It was said that she cast curses with a glance and summoned storms with a wave of her gnarled hands. Her repute as a witch grew so dire that in 1673 she was accused once more. This time, the evidence was more damning, the fear she was sentenced to imprisonment, her final years spent in the cold, dark confines of a cell, where she was left to languish, forgotten by all but those who feared her curse. But death did not bring Goody Cole peace. The town, eager to rid itself of her malignant influence once and for all, buried her in an unmarked grave at the edge of the cemetery. They drove a stake through the heart of her plot, a grim ritual to prevent her tormented spirit from rising and haunting them. Yet this act only solidified her legend, and it was said that her spirit lingered, malevolent and vengeful. To this day, eerie occurrences in Brentwood are often whispered to be the workings of Goody Cole's restless ghost. On stormy nights, some claim to see her figure in the flashes of lightning, wandering the woods or standing by her unmarked grave, still bound by the town's collective dread. Her legend has become a chilling reminder of the power of fear and the lasting stain of injustice, her story echoing through the centuries as a spectral tale of a woman wronged, her vengeance immortalised in the whispered fears of those who remember. The elevator game is not for the faint of heart. This eerie ritual, which originated on a Japanese forum in 2008, promises to transport players to an alternate world if they follow its chilling steps precisely. But those who play it know the risks. A journey that may lead them somewhere they can never return from, with a sinister presence haunting their every step. The rules are deceptively simple. Enter an empty building with at least 10 floors and step into the elevator alone. Press a specific sequence of buttons, 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, and 5, and upon reaching the 5th floor, something unsettling is said to happen. The door may open, revealing a mysterious woman standing there, dressed in shadows and staring straight ahead, ignoring the player. Legends warn never to look at her, speak to her, or acknowledge her presence, for she is not human. Those who break this rule have reportedly vanished without a trace, drawn into her icy, haunting gaze. If the ritual continues correctly, pressing the 1st floor should cause the elevator to ascend to the 10th floor instead, defying the commands. When the doors open, players will find themselves in a world both familiar and unsettlingly different, a barren, dark version of their own reality, empty and silent. Outside, a red cross glows ominously in the distance, casting an eerie light over a desolate landscape. They say if you step out here, you may become trapped, lost in this strange dimension, never to return. To return to the real world, the player must repeat the same button sequence, resisting the urge to look at the woman if she reappears. But the game is dangerous. Many who claim to have survived report feeling watched, plagued by shadows and strange figures following them long after they leave the elevator. The elevator game is not just a harmless superstition, but a doorway into darkness, a ritual that blurs the line between worlds and calls forth a presence that seems to lurk in the shadows. And for those who dare to play, one warning remains. Once you enter, you may never find your way back. On the windswept shores of Cape Henlopen State Park, where the Atlantic whispers ancient secrets to the rugged cliffs, there prowls an eerie phenomenon known as the corpse light. To the untrained eye, it might appear a beacon of safety, a lighthouse sailor's home, but to those familiar with its cursed history, it is a harbinger of doom, a deceptive glow that leads only to despair and death. The legend of the corpse light began in the fog-laden nights of the 18th century, a time when smugglers and pirates frequented these waters, weaving through the treacherous shoals and hidden reefs. It is said that one fateful night, a band of smugglers, heavy with illicit cargo, spied a light gleaming through the dense fog. Believing it to be the lighthouse, they steered their vessel towards it, hearts light with relief. But as they drew closer, the light mysteriously vanished, leaving them to the merciless embrace of the rocks. The ship was shattered, swallowed by the hungry sea, and all hands were lost to the depths. From that night on, the corpse light appeared sporadically, always to unsuspecting sailors, its ghostly glow a false promise of safety. Tales spread of a spectral lantern held aloft by a shadowy figure clad in the tattered remnants of colonial garb, doomed to forever reenact his treachery. Some whispered that he was the spirit of a lighthouse keeper who had conspired with pirates, others that he was a wronged sailor, seeking vengeance against those who sailed these cursed waters. Local folklore insists that to see the corpse light is an omen of impending disaster. Fishermen refuse to set sail if the light is seen, and sailors mutter prayers when passing the cape after dusk. It's not just the beacon that terrifies them, but the sudden cold that seeps into the bones at its sighting, and the inexplicable malaise that descends upon the beholder. On stormy nights, when the thunder rolls and lightning illuminates the sea, the corpse light dances across the waves, elusive and taunting. Some brave souls have tried to follow it, to uncover its origins or end its spectral wanderings. Yet none have succeeded, and many have not returned, their fates whispered in hushed tones in the local taverns. The corpse light remains one of the most chilling legends of Cape Henlopen, a reminder of the sea's dark power to enchant and ensnare. It continues to haunt the coastline, a phantom lighthouse that guides not to safe harbour, but to a watery grave, its mournful light a testament to the souls it has claimed. In the shadowed corridors of the uncanny, where art meets the supernatural, there echoes the unsettling legend of the crying boy. This painting, a mass-produced print by the Italian artist, known both as Giovanni Bragolin and Bruno Amadio, has stirred whispers of a curse since it first appeared in the 1950s. The portrait, depicting the tear-streaked face of a young boy with deep, sorrowful eyes, became a common fixture in homes across Europe, initially cherished for its poignant depiction of innocence and grief. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly benign artwork, darker forces seem to lurk. The legend began to take shape in the 1980s, when a series of mysterious fires devastated numerous homes throughout England. Amidst the charred ruins, firefighters made a chilling discovery. While the flames consumed almost everything in their path, the prints of the crying boy survived unscathed. In one house after another, the painting was found amongst the ashes, its glass cover often the only thing left intact. These bizarre occurrences were first reported in a 1985 article in the Sun newspaper, which chronicled the strange phenomenon, igniting widespread fear and superstition. The tale grew more sinister with each telling. It was said that the boy in the painting was a foundling, taken in by Amadio, who discovered the child weeping beside the smouldering ruins of a building that had claimed his parents. Moved by his plight, Amadio captured the boy's eternal sorrow on canvas. However, dark rumours swirled that the artist had exploited the child's curse, for the boy was no ordinary orphan. Legend had it that Wherever he resided, fires of unknown origin would inexplicably ignite. As the cursed painting's fame spread, so did accounts of misfortune attributed to it. Owners of the print reported inexplicable series of bad luck, with numerous testimonies of personal tragedies that befell those who displayed the painting in their homes. Some spoke of hearing the soft sobs of a child at night, the cries echoing through hallways, only to find the painting's eyes brimming with tears, as if the boy mourned not only his fate, but also that of those who gazed upon him. Frightened by these tales, many sought to rid themselves of the painting, yet disposing of the crying boy proved no simple task. Stories emerged of the prints being found intact at local dumps, or returning to hang on the walls they had once adorned, despite being thrown away. Others who attempted to burn the painting found that it resisted the flames, the boy's face peering out through the fire, his tears reflecting the inferno around him. Some curious souls, skeptics of the supernatural, delved into the painting's history, seeking rational explanations. They proposed that the varnish used by Amadio might have been flame retardant, a common practice among painters who wished to protect their work. Yet, no scientific explanation could fully dispel the aura of dread surrounding the image. The legend of the crying boy took on a life of its own, a modern myth that mingled fact with folklore. It became a cautionary tale about the objects we choose to bring into our homes, about the unseen energies they might carry. It warned of the grief that could spill from canvas to reality, a sorrow so profound it seemed to transcend the boundaries of art and enter the realm of the paranormal. Today, the crying boy hangs in the shadowed corners of antique shops, in online auctions, and sometimes, still, on the walls of those who either do not know its story or who defy the curse to court disaster. Whether a true bearer of misfortune or merely a subject of one of the most unsettling urban legends of the 20th century, the painting continues to fascinate and frighten, a testament to the power of art to move, to disturb, and perhaps to curse. Tonight we take a quiet journey into the eerie legend of the chupacabra. Let the mystery of the goat sucker guide you into a peaceful slumber as we unravel this chilling tale. In the remote shadowed corners of the Americas, whispers carry a name: the chupacabra. Born from terror and blood, this cryptid first slithered into legend on the stormy nights of Puerto Rico. Farmers would wake to a nightmare, their once lively goats drained of life, eyes glassy, throats pierced by two perfect holes. The blood was gone, as if sucked dry by some unholy predator. They say the name, chupacabra, stems from its insidious habits. Chupa, meaning to suck, and cabra, meaning goat. And so it was called the goat sucker, a beast with an insatiable thirst for blood. As dawn broke and bodies of livestock lay scattered, many wondered what kind of creature could commit such carnage. Described as reptilian or dog-like, the chupacabra is said to move with an unnatural grace, its skin scaly, cold to the touch, with glowing red eyes that burn through the night like molten embers. It creeps silently through the fields, avoiding human eyes, until it strikes, leaving nothing but empty carcasses and fear in its wake. Reports of its presence spread beyond Puerto Rico, with sightings in Mexico, South America, and blood of those left behind. Some claim to see it with their own eyes, a monstrous figure crouching low to the ground, waiting for the moment to pounce. Its movements were quick, almost too fast to follow, vanishing into the darkness as quickly as it appeared. Legends tell that the chupacabra was a cursed experiment gone wrong, a mutated creature that escaped from the depths of a secret lab, its body forever twisted into something both alien and grotesque. Others believe it is something far older, a demonic force that has existed for centuries, waiting for the right moment to return and feast upon the world. To this day, people fear the shadow of the chupacabra, dreading the eerie silence that falls over their farms at night. They lock their doors and guard their animals, praying that they will not be the next victims of the creature that stalks in the dark, thirsting for blood. As long as the chupacabra remains a mystery, it will continue to haunt the imagination of those who dare to walk the lonely roads, wondering if tonight will be the night they hear the hiss of the goat sucker closing in. In the chilling lore of baseball history, there is one story whispered among fans that never loses its grip: the curse of the Bambino. The legend began in 1919 when the Boston Red Sox, champions of the World Series, made a grave mistake that would doom them for nearly a century. Seeking funds, the team's owner, Harry Frazee, sold their star player, Babe Ruth, to their bitter rivals, the New York Yankees. Known as the Bambino, Ruth was not only Boston's greatest asset, but a force that seemed blessed, touched by an otherworldly power. But this sale was no ordinary transaction. It was a betrayal, an offence to the very spirit of victory. Soon after, Boston's golden age faded. For the next 86 years, as Babe Ruth's star rose with the Yankees, the Red Sox were plagued with failure after failure, each season bringing cruel heartbreak. Fans began to believe they were cursed, haunted by Ruth's ghost, vengeful and unrelenting. They whispered that he had cursed the team, binding them to an endless cycle of defeat, an eternal punishment for the betrayal. The curse of the Bambino was born, and the city felt the shadow of dread every time their team reached the brink of victory, only to be torn down as if by some unseen, malicious hand. Terrifyingly, the curse seemed to manifest in bizarre ways. Balls veered off course at the last second. Players fumbled as if gripped by an invisible force. Even the stadium lights flickered ominously during critical moments. Fans watched with growing unease, knowing something dark loomed over their team. Game after game, year after year, hope turned to horror, then despair, as Boston's beloved team fell to seemingly supernatural misfortune. But in 2004, the impossible happened. The Red Sox, against all odds, won the World Series, breaking the curse. The city rejoiced, yet some fans remained haunted. They wondered, did they truly break the curse, or merely awaken it? Clara's name lurks a sinister spectre named Clara Crane, whose story has haunted the town for over a century. The legend began in the early 1900s, when children in Tyrrell started to vanish without a trace. Desperate parents scoured the land, dredging the creeks and combing through the thickets, but none could unearth any sign of their missing offspring. As the community groped for answers, a disturbing pattern emerged. Children reported finding candies on their windowsills, pieces of caramels wrapped in crinkling parchment paper, with tiny notes urging them to come out and play. The notes were always signed with a simple, eerie C. Whispered tales from older folks traced the unsettling gifts back to Clara Crane, a woman once known among the townsfolk. Clara, they said, had lived on the fringes of Tyrrell, a reclusive and peculiar widow, whose only solace after the death of her abusive husband was her young daughter. Her life spiralled into darkness when her daughter mysteriously died, with local gossip suggesting foul play. The town shunned her, whispering that she had gone mad with grief, her mind twisted by the tragedy. Some said she blamed the children of Tyrrell for her loss, believing they had enticed her daughter into some fatal mischief. After her daughter's death, Clara vanished into obscurity, leaving only the decrepit shell of her home as a testament to her existence. But the story of the Candy Lady did not end with her disappearance. It was as if her spirit, unquelled by death or reason, continued to seek vengeance. The candies kept appearing, each piece an eerie invitation from beyond the grave. The most unsettling accounts involve letters found with the older children, written as if Clara herself were conversing with them from the shadows. These letters were more sinister, promising the children their fill of sweets in life and in death. It was as if Clara was crafting a congregation of souls, luring the innocent with sugar-coated deceit. Late at night, when the moon cast a ghostly glow across the fields, some claimed to see a figure near the edge of the woods, a silhouette of a woman in a tattered gown, her face obscured by the darkness. They said it was Clara, watching, waiting for her next child to claim. Those who dared to venture too close to the woods at night reported hearing the soft, unsettling melody of a lullaby drifting through the trees, only to be swallowed up by the suffocating silence of the unseen. To this day, the legend of Clara Crane, the Candy Lady, lingers in the air of Tyrrell like a thick fog. Parents tightly secure their windows, wary of the old tale, and remind their children to steer clear of the sweets that might appear unbidden. As Halloween approaches each year, the tension in the town tightens, a collective memory of the loss stirring in the hearts of those who remember. And so, the community watches and waits, the legend of Clara Crane etched deep in their bones, a spectral reminder that some tales are too chilling to be forgotten, and some spirits too vengeful to rest. In the shadowy winters of New England, the tale of Fair Charlotte is whispered among families, a haunting reminder of vanity and foolish pride. On a bone-chilling New Year's Eve, Charlotte, a young girl renowned for her beauty, was preparing to attend a grand winter ball. She chose a dress of delicate silk, the latest fashion, a gown that shimmered in the ward off the bitter cold, but Charlotte refused, scoffing at the idea of covering her beautiful dress with heavy, unsightly coats. As the sleigh arrived to carry her to the ball, the air was sharp and biting, the night blanketed in snow and silence. Her friends, bundled in layers, shivered as they watched her climb into the sleigh, her bare shoulders exposed to the icy wind. As the sleigh bells jingled and they set off into the darkness, the snow began to fall heavily, swirling in the air like ghostly fingers. The ride was long, and the cold crept in like a silent predator. Charlotte, proud and unyielding, ignored the numbness spreading through her limbs, her mind fixed only on her image as she arrived at the ball. Her friends tried to coax her into covering herself with a spare coat, but she laughed them off, her words carried away by the howling wind. "I want them to see me just as I am," she had said, her eyes gleaming with pride. By the time they arrived at the ball, the laughter had ceased, and Charlotte was silent, her head tilted to one side, her face frozen in an eerie, unchanging expression. Her friends shook her, called her name, but Charlotte did not respond. Her skin was cold, her lips blue. She had frozen to death on the journey, her beauty preserved in a ghostly, terrible stillness. News of Charlotte's fate spread quickly, and her story became a cautionary tale across New England. Mothers warned their daughters of fair Charlotte, the girl who had been so consumed by vanity that she sacrificed her life for appearance's sake. Some even claimed that her spirit could be seen on dark, snowy nights, riding in an empty sleigh, her face pale and expressionless, eyes staring blankly into the night, as if forever searching for a warmth that would never return. Today, her story lingers, a chilling reminder to those who hear it. They say if you listen closely on a winter's night, you can hear the faint jingle of sleigh bells and the haunting whisper of a girl's laugh carried on the wind, growing softer until it vanishes into the cold. The tale of fair Charlotte endures as a ghostly warning, a beautiful face, frozen forever in the cruel grasp of vanity and the merciless winter's chill. In the quiet town of Frederica, Delaware, there's a chilling legend that haunts the streets every Halloween night. It is the story of the Hanging Man, a figure that appears under the dim glow of the full moon, swinging silently from the branches of a tree along a desolate stretch of road. Years ago, a 42-year-old woman, driven by despair, took her own life in the dead of night, hanging herself from a tree by the roadside. Her body was found the next morning, cold and lifeless, her face twisted in a final, agonizing expression. But that should have been the end of the story. It wasn't. The first Halloween after her death, strange things began to happen. Drivers travelling along that stretch of road reported seeing a figure hanging from the tree, a silhouette swinging gently in the breeze, though no one had ever tied a rope there. But when they stopped to investigate, no body could be found. As the years went on, the sightings grew more frequent. Locals would whisper of a shadowy figure, always at midnight, hanging from the same tree, her body swaying as though caught in an invisible wind. But that's not the worst part. There are those who claim that if you stop your car near the tree on Halloween night and stare long enough, you can see the woman's face, twisted, pale, and filled with sorrow. Some say she will call out to you, pleading for help, her voice barely a whisper in the wind. and some believe that if you listen too long, if you dare to look too deep, you'll hear her whisper your name just before the tree's shadow reaches out to claim you. Clinton Road, a desolate stretch of asphalt in the heart of New Jersey, is infamous for its eerie atmosphere and the legends that cling to it like a cold mist. One of the most chilling of these stories is the tale of the ghost boy who haunts the old bridge along the road, forever waiting in the dark for those brave or foolish enough to seek him out. The legend begins with a tragic tale of a young boy who died under mysterious circumstances many years ago. Some say he drowned in the murky waters beneath the bridge. Others whisper that he was a victim of an accident, but no one truly knows. What is certain, however, is that his spirit never left the bridge. Instead it lingered, bound to the spot by the horrors of his untimely death, waiting for those who might encounter him in the dead of night. The story goes that if you visit the bridge on a quiet, moonless night and throw a coin into the dark waters below, something strange will happen. At first, it might seem like nothing more than a silly superstition, but as the night stretches on, the air will begin to feel heavy, thick with an unnatural silence. The shadows around the bridge will grow deeper, and you may feel an unsettling chill on the back of your neck, as if you're being watched. Then, if you return to the spot after a time, you may find the coin you tossed into the water resting at your feet, returned to you as though by some unseen hand. At first, it's easy to dismiss this as coincidence. Perhaps the current brought it back, or it was there all along. But those who have returned again and again tell a different tale. The coin isn't just lying in the same spot, it's placed right in front of you, as if someone or something wants you to find it. But the most chilling part of the story is the boy, some say. In the moments before the coin is returned, they've seen him, standing just out of reach, a small, pale figure. His face is obscured in the darkness, but his eyes are unmistakable, empty, hollow, staring at you with an otherworldly intensity. He does not speak. He simply watches, waiting. And when you turn away, even for a second, the coin is there. Returned as if by magic, the boy's intentions remain unclear. Is he trying to communicate? Or is this some twisted game he plays with those who dare approach? No one knows, but one thing is certain. There is something deeply unsettling about the presence that haunts that bridge. Many claim that after encountering the ghost boy, they feel an overwhelming sense of unease, a feeling that they are never truly alone, no matter where they go. And so the legend of the ghost boy persists, drawing thrill seekers and curious souls to Clinton Road, where the line between life and death seems thinner than anywhere else. But for those who dare venture near the bridge, remember this: once you make contact with the boy, once you feel his eyes upon you, it may be too late to ever leave that haunted place behind, because some spirits never let go. corners of Chicago's streets, there's a chilling tale that has haunted the city since 1991. A story of a clown, not the jolly kind with painted smiles and squeaky shoes, but a twisted, murderous figure who terrorized the very neighborhoods where laughter once echoed. This is the legend of Homie the Clown, a name that sends shivers through anyone who remembers the whispers of that time. It was said that Homie the Clown wasn't just another entertainer dressed in a garish costume, but a dangerous predator who lurked in the shadows of Chicago's South Side. With a face painted in grotesque, exaggerated features, wide, maniacal eyes, a permanent grin twisted into something far more sinister, he was not there to entertain, but to instill fear. His clown persona was a mask, hiding the true monster underneath. The urban legend began innocently enough. Children in the neighborhood, curious and naive, spoke of a strange figure in the streets, an unsettling clown who roamed at night, offering candy and small trinkets to those who dared approach him. But there was always something off about Homie. His gifts, while seemingly benign, were laced with an aura of danger. No one ever seemed to see him leave, and those who ventured too close to his eerie, silent figure would never be seen again. Over time, Homie's legend grew darker. The tales started to merge with real-life disappearances, and soon a sense of dread fell over the area. The clown wasn't just a shadowy figure anymore. He had become something far worse. A serial killer hiding in plain sight. People began to believe that Homie would stalk his victims, sometimes luring them into his van with promises of candy, only to disappear into the night with them, never to be heard from again. In the years that followed, rumours of Homie the Clown began to spread. They spoke of him preying on children, his sharp, jagged teeth hidden behind his painted smile. Others claimed that he would disappear into the fog, his haunting laugh echoing long after he had gone. But no one knew who he truly was. Or if he was even real, was he just a story told to keep kids in line? Or had the city truly been haunted by a killer clown, a predator who used the innocence of childhood to hide his monstrous deeds? To this day, the legend of Homie the Clown persists. Many dismiss it as a myth or an exaggerated story, but there are those who still believe that somewhere in the dark alleys and hidden streets of Chicago, Homie is waiting. And for those who still wander too far into the night, they might just hear the faintest, most unsettling sound, the laughter of a clown, too twisted to be anything but a nightmare. Deep in the shadowy swamps of Fuke, Arkansas, a creature is said to roam, a nightmarish figure known as the Fuke Monster, also called the Boggy Creek Monster or Swamp Stalker. This beast has haunted the imagination of locals for decades, a being cloaked in mystery, terror, and shadow. The first chilling sightings began in the early 1970s. Witnesses described a hulking, ape-like creature standing over 7 feet tall, its body covered in dark matted hair. Its eyes glowed with an unholy red light, piercing through the dense fog that clings to the swamps. The creature was said to emit a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down the spine, a sound that seemed to echo deep into the forest, warning all who dared approach. The Fuke Monster didn't just lurk in the shadows. It was rumoured to stalk homes and farms on the edges of the swamp. In one particularly terrifying account, a family claimed the beast attacked their rural home, smashing through windows and clawing at doors in a frenzy. When they fired shots at it, the creature let out a blood-curdling scream and disappeared into the woods, leaving behind massive 3-toed footprints and a lingering sense of dread. Locals began to avoid the swamp at night, whispering that the creature was not merely an animal, but something darker, perhaps a spirit of the land, an ancient guardian awakened by trespassers. The area became steeped in fear, and many who ventured too close reported strange sounds, eerie movements in the underbrush, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Even today, the legend of the Fook monster persists. Some say it still stalks the Boggy Creek area, its red eyes glowing in the dark, waiting for the unwary to stumble into its domain. Others claim to have heard its haunting growl in the dead of night, a reminder that some creatures are meant to remain unseen, lurking in the shadows of the swamp.